This is Gemara Yevamos Daf Kof Yod Dalit. All the learning should bring an incredible schachidach. V'yishachayim the time super tzarach hashom lebizava. Oivik ben Dali Shem ben Chayav l'miut isbas sima malkal. Vaz chusfur Hashem v'shalim yezan rei l'shmam v'tilam v'talzim v'chlas v'cham v'asviva. Star blum v'as ben Chaim v'shishum ben malkal chad v'lei v'saradina v'shevik v'shechana. B'soich shar chayli Yisrael. Believe it or not, we're within the last week plus over here. B'siyata d'shmaya. We are holding about 10 lines from the bottom, 8 lines from the bottom on Kufyu Gimel Amid Beis, in which the Gemara teaches us that hey, Rav Yechanan Gudgada gave Eidos that when one is married midaraisa to a cheirish, you're allowed to on the daraisa level get divorced. So says the Gemara, Amar Rava may do such Rav Yechanan Gudgada Amar. From the Eidos Rav Yechanan Gudgada Amar le'edim, a man said to Eidim, this is a halacha that is born out of the Eidos of Rav Yechanan Gudgada. Re'u get zeh shani noisi. Someone says to Eidim, you see this piece of paper? I'm giving it to my wife. This is a get. Va'amar lo, and he turns to his wife and he says, he doesn't say, here's your get. He says, Concise shtar chayv zeh. He says, take this shtar chayv. And he doesn't tell her it's a get. Take this debt document. She is divorced. Why? Where do we see this? Explains the Gemara. Did Rav Yechanan Gudgada not say that we do not need the woman's das to get divorced? So from the fact Rav Yechanan Gudgada taught us that a cheireshes, one that doesn't have full das, he still could get divorced. So too says the Gemara, we learn out that one could trick and effect a divorce from his wife even without her understanding. Says the Gemara, Pshita, what's the chiddush? This is mamish the case of Yechanan Gudgada. Explains the Gemara, Mouth the Tema, 4 lines from the bottom. I would have thought that since the man said to his wife, take this shtar choif, betule batale, by saying that, he's saying it's not a get. It's a shtar choif. Kamash Mala, no. If this guy really wanted to say it's not a get, he would have told the Eidim, it's not a get, it's a shtar choif. He did not make a bottle. So why did he say this? Why did he just tell his wife, here's your get? Because because he's embarrassed in divorcing her, so that's why he said this. So says the Gemara, din number 1 of today, that the Eidos of Yechanan Gudgada that you don't need to ask a divorce teaches us a similar din, that he can give his wife a get and not tell her what it is, and she still will be divorced. Continues the Gemara, and now we're going to begin a very famous sugya in all of Shas. The sugya which is brought down l'halach l'maisa most prominently for money is in the Mishnah Berurah and Shin Mem Beis Mehilchas Shabbos with regard to what level is a child allowed to do an Isser Daraisa or Darabanan. Does the father, does Bezdin, do other people have to stop the child? And can you even ask the child to do any of the above? So says the Gemara, one second, excuse me. Oh, there it is. Says the Gemara, Rab Yitzchak bar Rabisna arachisu le maftachi. A famous case. He lost his keys to Beit Midrasha. In the time before AirTags, he lost his keys. He doesn't know what to do. He's in Beis Medrash. He can't find his keys. Bereshos harabim b'Shabbata. And this was in Rosh Hashanah on Shabbos. Asli came to Rav Pedas. He came to Rav Pedas. Rav Pedas is going to be the star of today's show. Omar le Rav Pedas says, Zil, go. And what should you do? Go divar Talia, Toli Vitalia. He tells him that you should go and bring some children, boys and girls, to that place. V'letalia awesome. Tell the kids to go play around a little bit. And if they find the keys, they'll bring it on their own. Tell the kids play over here, and if they find the keys on the floor, they're going to bring it home to you. From here, says the Gemara, El Makasavar, what is Rav Pedas old? Kata noichal nevelois. Ain't Bezdin between Lafra Ishai. Bezdin doesn't have to stop someone from doing an Isser. If he's enabling the Isser, he's not telling him. He's not telling the kids to do it, but he's enabling the Isser. He's putting the kids in a situation that they're going to do an Isser, and that's allowed. So certainly Beis Din does not have to stop someone from eating an avela from doing an Issa Daraisa. Says the Gemara, I'll bring you a raya. One should not tell a kid, bring me my keys, bring me a seal. However, he's allowed to let the kid to continue toilesh, plucking the plants, and to continue throwing it on Shabbos. So we see the same thing, even though you can't ask the kid to do it, you're allowed to let the kid continue doing it. Amar Rabbayo, it's not a rayo, because that brisa, everything the kids were doing were dirabanan and not daraisa. So says the Gemara, we have this din of Rapidas, that a katan oichal nevilas, you're not allowed, you do not have to stop him. Before we continue, let's just point out the obvious point, as will come clear in a moment. To ask the kid to do an Isser Chas V'Shalom is for sure Asr. If he's doing it for you, it might even be an Isser Daraisa. So that's for sure not allowed to tell the 3-4-year-old, oh, can you turn on the light for me? It's dark in here, turn on the air conditioning. That is for sure not allowed. The only potential case that we're discussing is if the kid does it on their own, do the parents have an obligation to tell the kid to stop? Beis Din mechuyev or not? Says the Gemara, says Rav Pidas, Beis Din is not mechuyev. Tashema, continues the Gemara, bring you a rayo. Actually, Kash on Rav Pidas. Akum Shabbalach boys, if a guy comes to put out a fire, we can't tell the guy put out the fire. But we also don't have to stop him. Because we don't care if a guy does malacha, he's allowed to. But a katan's coming on his own to put out the fire. Don't put it out. Because their shvisa, their keeping Shabbos is upon us. Seemingly a clear brisa, not like Rav Pidas. Amar Rav Yochanan, no kasha. There it is. He's doing it for the father. And any time the kid is doing it for the father, that is forbidden. That is the reason why to tell the kid to do something means he's going to do it for you. And therefore that is going to be forbidden. Continues the Gemara, the Kavasa, the Raya is Gabi Akum, Daisal Das Yisrael, Mishar Yakum. If the guy is doing it for the Yid, would we let him do it? Says the Gemara, it doesn't make sense. If you're telling me that the case of the fire is that he's doing it for you, so parallel in the case of the guy, he's also doing it for you. But if he's doing it for you, you're not allowed to let him continue doing it. Meaning, this is the halacha that when a guy is doing malacha for you, you have to be meicha. You have to protest his actions for him to stop. Says the Gemara, no, he's not doing it for you. He's being a good Samaritan. He sees a fire, he's putting it out. So no kasha. Tashema, now we're going to try to bring a raya. The son of a Talmud Chacham that frequents the father of his mother, his grandfather is an Am Haaretz. We don't have to worry that maybe the Zayda is going to feed him food that's not kosher, that's not properly Truma Meistered. Matzah biyadai peiros, but if you find him holding fruit when he comes home, then you're not obligated to take away from him. We seemingly see, just like Rav Pidas, that we do not have to stop the kid, even though it does seem like he's doing an Isser. Amar Rav Yochanan no raya, but demai kilu, because it's talking about demai they are mekel. Al time of the demai havade boila surei. But if it was vada, you knew it wasn't taking of meiser, you'd have to take a meiser. Amar Rav Yochanan beisal dasal. But Rav Yochanan a moment ago taught us the only time you have to stop him when he's doing it for you. El Rav Yochanan tzvugim esav. Because Rav Yochanan wasn't sure. Kai achi matchi, kai achi matchi. Rav Yochanan didn't know that halacha, so each case he was pushing them off, but it's not necessarily a raya or a kasha. Tashema continues the Gemara trying to bring another raya. About 20 lines down, the first one line is Tashema. Ben Chaver Koyin Shagalei Chayz Lavi Yimoy Koyin. Amaretz. He goes to visit his grandfathers and Amaretz in Chayshem Yachlenu Truma Tameya. We don't have to be worried that maybe the grandfather had Truma, which is Tamei, and he feeds it to the grandson. But Yatzia the Preiro is also in Zakigloi. So what do we see again? You don't have to stop the kid. Explains the Gemara. No raya. Be Truma Dirabanan. Third potential raya. Tashema Yonik Tinoik V'Oilech. May akum, a kid is allowed to nurse from a guy, or behema to and from a behema that is not kosher. Ve'ein chayshishim, and we are not nervous. B'yoinek shakets, we're not nervous that he's going to be eating something not kosher. We Utreiva ishkatzim uramasim, but we're not allowed to feed him. Very important. Lo yachilenu. You can feed him something not kosher. Umikulam yonik behem, but the kid's allowed to nurse on his own from any of the above. Afilu b'Shabbos. Ubegadol aser, but the gadol, it's going kid. Once he reaches 3-4 years old, he's a toddler. It's going to be forbidden. Habashal leimer noigim hayinu sheyoinkim mibehema tahira biyomtiv. We're noyig to let the kid to yoinik from a not kosher animal, to nurse from a not kosher animal on yontiv. Says the Gemara, what do we see from this price? 8 lines from the white lines. Katani miya ein chaysha shin biyoinik sheketz. We see that even though the kid potentially is eating something not kosher, we're not concerned. We let him to continue nurse. Explains the Gemara, Hasa mishum sakana. Over there, the kid eats to eat. If the kid doesn't nurse, it's sakana. So that's why we let him. But it's not a raya to Rav Bidas that we let kids do Yisurim and we don't have to stop them. Ihachi asked the Gemara, Gadol nami. I don't understand. If it's a case of sakana, then we should let even the gadol eat it. Gadol bayu umdina, says the Gemara, the gadol, you need to evaluate him before you give him something not kosher. Says the Gemara, I don't understand. Katanami bayu umdina, we should also evaluate the child. Amar Avuna Brei Rav Yeshua, Stam Tinok Mesukan Eitzel Chalav. A Stam Tinok is Mesukan, is endangered with regard to milk, and therefore you do not have to evaluate the kid, and you're allowed to right away let him eat this item, which is potentially not kosher. But this is not oraya to Rav Bidas, because maybe the only reason is because of the sakana. And now we continue analyzing the brayso, 2 lines from the wide lines. He said we let the child eat from a behema to hayra on yantiv. Hey chidami, what's the case? Idi sakana, says the Gemara in the first wide line. If there was a sakana, the kid needs food. Avilu b'Shabbos nami, we'll let him do it on Shabbos. V'gedalega sakana avilu b'yantiv asar. Laitzricha, says the Gemara, the ikatzar. There's a pain, different levels, not a sakana, but the kid's bitzar. V'kasavar mefarik lachar yad. Mefarik, that is the lashon, that is threshing. Nursing is a form of mifarik. Mifarik lachar yad. Threshing, nursing in an indirect manner. Why is it indirect? Because to nurse from the baby, from the animal directly with the mouth, that is called an indirect manner. So therefore it's a derabanan. The klachar yadu. Shabbos is skila gazerabanan. We're playing with the deraisa. So even the derabanan, the klachar yad is forbidden. Yantiv disrelav lo gazerabanan. Says now before we continue, we're just going to point out this is one of the big mikayres, a very large sugya in Hilchos Shabbos. If a woman needs to pump, she needs to get rid of some of her breast milk. If either she's doing it to give to the baby, if she's doing it because she's just in pain. This is one of the very, very big sugyas. As we're seeing over here, that the milk for the child is called sakana. Many of the Paiskim speak about it. Sakana, really? So one of the Lashonis says that this is the food of the kid. Whatever is the food of the kid, if you take away his own food, then he's going to be b'sakana. A big sugya, one of the big rayas, which we do not have time to discuss right now. Says the Gemara, Tashima. We are 4 lines into the white lines, and now we're going to try again to bring a raya that you have to stop the kid. Says the Gemara, Lo sochlem, do not feed the child. It's a kashan Rav Bidas, ki sheketz. Do not feed the kid because it is an abomination. Lo sachlim lahazir gedol malkedanim. So warning for the gadol, for the child. My love, lo sachlu. So don't we see a clear raya that you're not allowed to let the kid eat it? Loi, and here's a beautiful, wonderful Torah. It says in word Loi leisfulei biyodayim. A very important rule that even according to Rav Bidas, that you might not have to stop a kid from doing an iser, but you never let to feed the kid. Leisfulei biyodayim. You're not allowed to feed the kid. This is referred to as the halach of safinon. You're not allowed to feed the kid an iser. So even if it will be allowed for the kid to do malacha, you're not allowed to feed it to him. An example of this would be, even though you might be allowed to let the 3-year-old take the crayons and color on Shabbos, but to hand the 3-year-old a crayon, even though in the world of muksa it would be allowed, because you're utilizing this forbidden item for its own sake, it's a klisha nacht l'ser l'tzarech kufay, but to give the kid something which is aser, that is forbidden, says the Gemara. And that's the halacha l'maisa. Tashima, 4 lines on the bottom. Called all the souls amongst you should not consume blood. Lazar Gedolim Alikatanim, to warn the Gedolim Alikatanim, my love, Darmalu, Loisachlu. Is it not talking about to tell the kid not to eat? Loi, to Laisli Biadayim, again, it just means you should not feed the kid. Tashma, another Rayo, another Kashan Rapidas. Emor Ve'amarto, we darshin. Lahazir Gedolim Alikatanim, my love, Darmalu, Loisatame, that you tell the kid do not become tummy. Loi, to let me die, you shouldn't make them tummy on their own. So we have three prices at the end over here, which we thought were kashas on Rav Pedas, in which we're concluding right now that they're not kashas, but rather they're each teaching us the same din. The din of Safina and the din that you're not allowed to feed the kid Isser. Says the Gemara Utzricha on the last line, and we need three sources to this din. Diashvinan Shkatzim. If we only said the first case of shkatzim, I would have thought, why? Mishum di isuran b'mashu. Even a mashu of a shek, it's the slightest amount is forbidden. Aval dam dadik ravias emaloi. Blood is only forbidden if you consume a ravias. V'yashbina dam mishum di kakaris. It's a very chomer iser. Aval shratzim emaloi. Shratzim do not carry the severity of kares, rather just malchus. I would have thought not. V'yashbina dani tarti shratzim and dam mishum di isuran shavat bekol. They apply to everyone. Avol toma, the last case, emaloi. V'yashbina toma, I would have thought kahani, shanim, kahanim are different. Mishum deriba mitzvahs yiseris kahanim and many more mitzvahs. Avol hani emaloi. Sricha, that's why we need all three cases. Continues the Gemara. Let's go back. We have a din of Rav Pedas. He allowed to let the kid continuously to do an iser. Tashema, says the Gemara, 7 lines down. Now we're going to try to bring a raya from our Mishnah itself. We have two brothers, one's a Bikech, one's a Cherish, Nesuin, Shnei Achayos Bikachais. Meis Cherish Bal Bikaches. The Cherish who's married to the competent one dies. Ma Yase Bikech Bal Bikaches. What should the full das one do? They're not allowed to stay married. Meis Bikech Bal Bikaches, Ma Yase Cherish Bal Bikaches. He has to get divorced, as we explained, because his original marriage was derabanan. Now he has a zika, so he's achay ziku kasai. Says the Gemara, why are we requiring him to get divorced? So we explained the reason is because achay ziku kasai. Teisiv gabe, but says the Gemara, I don't understand. Let them stay married. This cherish has the din of a katan, so let them stay married, because we said according to Rav Pedas, we're allowed to let a katan to continue doing the isurim that he was doing. Explains the Gemara, Mishum Isuri Dida. You're right that he could continue doing the Isser, but when he's together with his wife, she is being over an Isser. That is the reason why Bezdin forces him to divorce. Tashema, says the Gemara, another Kashan Rav Pedas from our Mishnah. Shtei achim bechad nesuy shtei achayos. Achas bikachas v'achas chareshes meis bikach bal chareshes mayas bikach bal bikachas. Teitzim shem achayis isha meis bikach bal bikachas mayas bikach bal chareshes moitziz isha bikach isha achas bal chalitza. So now says the Gemara the same kasha amai moitziz isha beget teitzim gabei. Let them stay married. Why? Kota noichel nevilusu. Says the Gemara the same teretz mishum isura didei. The tables turned, but now there's an isser on the husband. Amar Rav Tashema, the next case, which has both sides. Tashema, Shnei Achim Echerish V'Echel B'Kech Nesuy Shnei Achayis Echel B'Kech B'Chaz Chareshes. Meis Cherish B'Al Chareshes, Meis B'Kech B'Al B'Kech Zayim Misham Achayis Isha, Meis B'Kech B'Al B'Kech Meis Cherish B'Al Chareshes. Moitzi as Ishtoy Beget, V'Ishes Achav Asur Lo'elam. V'Ha'acha, 3 lines to the end of the parak, says the Gemara, in this case, you can't say this an Isra to him, can't say this to her. Why? Delav Isur Didaika, V'Lav Isur Didaika. There's neither an Isra on either one. And yet, V'Kadani Moiti as Ishtoy Beget. So ask the Gemara, it's a Kash and Rav Pedas. We see that even though there's no Yisurim to the spouse, we still require them to get divorced. Why? Why don't we say it's Katan Eichel Nevela so they can stay married? Explains the Gemara, no Rayam, Rav Shemai Gezeir Misham Atar Zivam Meshok, it's a Gezeira Dirabanon. Hadron Aloch Cherish, we should do an incredible Chazara. And as we begin the 15th and the second to last parak of this fabulous Masechta of Yevamos, says the Mishnah, this is mimics similar Gemaras that we had when the wife goes overseas, the husband goes overseas. Now they both go on vacation together. And it was at a time, Shalom Beina Lebeina, they're having a beautiful marriage. Vishalom Ba'ilam, and there's no turmoil in the world. Uba ve'amra, and she returns without her husband, and she says, Meis Baili, my husband died. Tinase, we let her get married. Meis Baili, she says, my husband died, and they had no children. He has a brother. Tisyabim, they do yibam. But case number 2, Shalom beino lebeino, they're not having any marital strife, but u'melchama ba'ilam, there's war in the world. Katana beino lebeino, or they're fighting v'shalom ba'ilam, and there's war in the world. Ubasa ve'amra, she comes to the knees. Baili einoi nemenes. Now she's not believed anymore. Why is she not believed anymore? Rashi over here speaks out. Rashi over here speaks out that what's the difference if there's shalom or not. Rashi says that it's not a type. When it says that the Mishnah said that there's peace, is that if there was fighting, maybe she would just assume automatically, and since there were so many people dying, that she would just assume that he died. But if there's no fighting, then the only time she would have said he died is if she saw that he died. And similarly, when there's fights amongst them, maybe they hate each other, and she doesn't want to deal with him. That's why she's saying he died. So in any of those 2 cases, she does not have an emenes. The only time she's believed if she comes back crying, and her clothing is torn. Chachamim said whether she is displaying mourning, she's clothes are ripped and she's crying or not. Said the Chachamim, she is believed. So says the Gemara, let's go back. The first din of the Mishnah, they both go overseas, and she comes back and says her husband died. Tana, we learned in the Mishnah. Shalom beino lebeino, mishad degabayla misli katata beino lebeino. Says the Gemara, the Tana says the first case when there's peace between him and her, because they needed to say the second case when they're fighting. Tana shalom beino mishad degabayla misli milchama bailam. So the case A was a setup to case B. Amar Rava, says Rava, my taima de milchama. As we just explained, Rashi was quoting this Gemara. Why by milchama is it any different? 2 lines from the white lines. Misham da'amra b'didami. The reason is because we could be concerned that she might think from the mere fact that so many people are dropping dead, her husband died as well. Salka daita b'cholani dektolu palit. Is it possible that so many people are dying? Ve'hu palit, and my husband escaped. And even if you're saying when they themselves are having a good marriage, but there's milchama in the world, then maybe she'll still wait till she sees him die. There are times when they hit him with an arrow, or with a spear. Visavra, she sees her husband get it. And she thinks that her husband died. But the only reason she thinks this is because there's a battle going on. Where in fact it could be that he put some wound on him, put some dressing on his wound, some herbs, and he's going to live. So whenever there's a milchama in the world, and the woman's going to be quicker to assume he died, then she's not believed according to the Tanakama, according to the Akama. Continues the Gemara, what about other cases? Savara, the first white line. Let's say there's a famine. Do we also assume that the woman's quicker to think her husband died? Said Rava, no. Because she's not just going to assume he's going to die because it's a famine. But why? He does like I made the Rava's own came in front of Rava. Amar lei, Baili meis barav. My husband died in famine. Amar la shaber after the shizva nafsheich. So Rava respond to him. It's good that you ran away and you saved yourself. Because you could have perhaps thought, with that little bit of flour that you have left, you think he's going to be able to live. Amra lei, and she responded, Mar nami gamna lo chaya. You got it, she said to Rava. Meaning, she didn't really know her husband died in famine. She assumed there wasn't so much food, so he died. So Rava saw that she made this up based on the circumstances. So that's why Rava was chayzer, that she does not have an emanis, because maybe the only reason she's saying this is circumstantial. And Hadrama Rava again, Rava in Kireya Mil Milchama. Rava said further that famine is even worse. When it comes to milchama, ki amra meis ba'ili b'milchama udulay k'emna. Ha meis al mitasei me'emna. Only if she says that he died in the fighting is she not believed. But if she said he died in his bed, then of course she's believed. But v'ilu gabi Rava, it says Rava when it's a famine, ad amra meis ukvartiv. Even if she said he died on his bed, I saw him, she's still not believed because we assume that maybe she didn't see the full death and she just assumed that he died. We'll pick it up from the Mapailes in the next year.